Welcome to this explainer. Look, let's be entirely honest for a second. When most of us hear the phrase management review meeting, there's this collective internal groan, right? We instantly picture stale coffee in a stuffy boardroom, flipping through massive binders and just mindlessly checking boxes to keep the auditors happy. But today, we are completely flipping that script. We're looking at Clause 9.3 of the new ISO 14001:2026 standard, and we're going to unpack exactly how it transforms those dry, routine meetings into the absolute strategic engine room of your environmental management system. If you've ever felt like your leadership sustainability meetings are completely disconnected from the actual reality of your environmental performance on the ground, well, you're going to want to pay close attention.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a highly structured roadmap for understanding how raw data enters the boardroom and actually exits as funded strategic action. First, we're going beyond the compliance meeting, then driving continual EMS improvement, followed by strategic resource allocation decisions, documenting decisions and actions, and finally, avoiding common audit failures.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Beyond the Compliance Meeting, Moving Towards Strategic Governance. We are shifting our mindset completely here. Answer honestly for a second. Are your management reviews just a paperwork exercise? I mean, we all know what that dreaded rubber stamping ritual looks like in practice. The leadership team gathers maybe once a year. Someone quickly skims a high-level summary, everyone nods, and a formal set of minutes is generated with the sole, solitary purpose of getting the ISO auditors out of the building. But does that meeting actually drive your corporate sustainability? Does it dictate how your organization operates in the real world on a Tuesday afternoon? For a whole lot of companies, the answer is a flat no. The meeting is just a theatrical performance of compliance.
Well, the 2026 revision of ISO 14001 demands a total paradigm shift. The old way of doing things was basically an administrative routine. It was heavily focused on mere compliance maintenance, making sure no permits expired and putting out small fires just to keep the lights on. But the new standard? It firmly expects a strategic governance mechanism. What this means in reality is that your management review outputs must literally dictate how the environmental management system adapts and continuously improves. These have to be evidence-driven decisions that proactively manage emerging risks and force true system evolution. It's no longer about just surviving an audit. It's about steering the entire corporate ship based on hard data.
That brings us right to Section 2, Driving Continual EMS Improvement and the Need for Strategic Transformation. Leadership absolutely must step up and mandate change.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer scale of what's expected. It is massive. The 2026 standard makes it abundantly clear that continual improvement is not limited to incremental operational adjustments. It's not about, putting a shiny new recycling bin in the break room or patching up a leaky water pipe in the maintenance bay. No. The expectation now is bold, strategic transformation of processes, technologies, competencies, and governance structures. Imagine a company realizing their packaging is environmentally unsustainable. A minor tweak is reducing the plastic thickness by 2%. A strategic transformation, which is exactly what the standard is pushing for, is redesigning the entire global supply chain to eliminate single-use plastics completely. The management review output is the exact place where top management authorizes that level of ambition.
So let's walk through the life cycle of how a real improvement actually happens under this updated standard. Say a factory manager notices a concerning trend. Their greenhouse gas emissions are creeping upward every single quarter, creating a clear performance gap. Under the old mentality, they might just file the report and cross their fingers it gets better. But now, that data feeds directly into the management review. And the output isn't just a nod of acknowledgement. It's a documented, firm leadership decision to take sweeping action. That decision acts as the catalyst that triggers a strategic transformation, like completely overhauling the facility's energy grid by installing a massive solar array. The crucial takeaway here is that a gap in performance must seamlessly translate into a documented output that creates real, physical, operational change.
Let's move along to Section 3, Strategic Resource Allocation Decisions and Funding Strategic Action. Because let's face it, strategic transformations are completely impossible without the oxygen of actual resources.
You can have all the strategic intent in the world, and you can write the most beautifully worded sustainability goals, but if you don't fund them, they're just wishes, right? The standard explicitly requires management review outputs to allocate specific resources to ensure environmental objectives are met without interruption. Think of these three areas as the golden triad of resource allocation. First, leadership must authorize actual financial budgets. Second, they've got to allocate human resources, and this is critical because it goes way beyond just headcount. It includes specialized training. I mean, buying $1 million digital emission tracking system, your technological infrastructure, is completely useless if you don't simultaneously allocate the human resources to train your staff on how to actually use it. Your management review output is the exact mechanism that unlocks all three of these resources simultaneously.
And this brilliantly illustrates why this matters so much. Let's ground this in a high-stakes reality. Imagine your facility's wastewater discharge data is creeping dangerously close to a strict regulatory limit. You are essentially one bad week away from a massive EPA fine, negative press, or maybe even a forced shutdown. An effective management review output does not just vaguely state, hey, we need to monitor the wastewater more closely. Instead, leadership authorizes capital expenditure right on the spot to upgrade the wastewater treatment systems, while simultaneously funding energy efficiency feasibility studies to modernize the plan. They are allocating concrete resources to proactively prevent a disastrous regulatory non-compliance scenario. That is what funding a strategic action actually looks like.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, documenting decisions and actions, establishing a traceable paper trail. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to prove your strategic intent.
We really need to talk about action records. We have all been in that incredible, energized brainstorming meeting where everyone in the boardroom agrees to just change the world. And then 3 months later, you realize absolutely nothing has happened. The ideas just vanished into the corporate ether because nobody was officially assigned to execute them. Action records are the operational translation of those management review decisions. They take high-level boardroom conversations and turn them into ground-level reality. By specifying measurable tasks, strict timelines, and clear responsibilities, action records ensure that a strategic decision actually survives the long journey from the executive suite all the way down to the factory floor.
When it comes to proving this to an auditor, bulletproof traceability means drawing a straight, unbreakable line from a raw problem directly to a funded solution. The narrative thread has to be incredibly clear. An identified issue, like high energy use, has to trigger a specific leadership decision, such as adopting new energy-efficient technology. That decision then immediately assigns responsibility to a specific group, like the engineering team. And finally, that team is backed by an allocated capital budget so they can actually do the work. If your management review outputs follow this exact narrative thread, you are proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that your leadership decisions are fully integrated into your operational planning.
Finally, let's step into Section 5, avoiding common audit failures by watching out for major red flags. Let's look at this entirely from the lead auditor's perspective.
So the crucial point is, we all know someone in the compliance world who literally copies and pastes the phrase, EMS is effective, no major issues identified, from their 2023 meeting minutes directly into their 2024 meeting minutes. Listen, lead auditors can smell that kind of laziness from the parking lot. If they see a generic, copy-pasted output, it's an automatic nonconformance. It proves a complete absence of evidence-based decision-making. Contrast that bureaucratic rubber stamping with a highly specific, data-driven output, like officially authorizing a budget to upgrade emission monitoring software. One is a hollow placeholder. The other is specific, measurable, resource-backed, and directly addresses a real operational reality.
Let's rapidly fire off the 4 horsemen of a failed ISO audit so you know exactly what pitfalls to dodge. First, auditors consistently hand out nonconformances for the complete absence of evidence-based decisions. Second, they penalize the failure to allocate resources, meaning you talked endlessly about a problem but completely refused to open the checkbook to fix it. Third, they look for a lack of strategic direction, where your management system is basically just spinning its wheels year after year without evolving. And fourth, they will absolutely flag a failure to integrate risk into your outputs. For example, if you note a massive flood risk to your supply chain in your risk register, but your management review output does absolutely nothing to fund a mitigation plan, yeah, you're going to fail that audit. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Take a really hard look at how your organization operates today. Do your management review outputs drive real environmental change? Are these meetings just an elaborate, stressful theatrical performance for the sake of an auditor? Or are you actually using the boardroom as a genuine catalyst to transform your environmental performance? The ISO 14001:2026 standard gives you the ultimate framework to force evolution, but the true strategic value comes from how courageously you choose to use it. Take this knowledge, structure your next review entirely differently, and start driving real, funded, strategic action. Thank you for joining me for this explainer.